And before Melanie introduces our guest for tonight, I have a fossil story to tell you. Out in the Midwest, they did find some fossilized, actually they found 2 fossilized buffaloes. And inside the buffaloes, they found 2 male sacks. So they conclude from that the buffaloes were stamp eating across the country. Stamp eating. Do I have to draw pictures here? Okay. Anyway, so I asked Melanie to do an introduction tonight, and they're breaking history in the Zoom Rock Room. This is the furthest away program that we've had out of York County, Pennsylvania, out to Oregon. So they're setting the record right now. So go ahead, Melanie.
Sure thing. So Michelle worked with the John Day Fossil Beds National Monument for about 15 years. She is now a park ranger and their education program coordinator. She very much enjoys sharing the fascinating story told by the fossil plants and animals at John Day Fossil Beds National Monument. Some of her favorite jobs at work include designing new waysides and working with their paleontology field team. So if everyone on the Zoom Rock Room would please welcome Michelle Ordway. And here she is.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for the great. One thing that I would like to do is welcome you to John Day Monument. And I'm going to be sharing over the next 30 minutes or so a special place. But first, just a really quick backstory. So with everybody being fossil collectors, rock hounds, you probably have a favorite being a little kid in that first fossil that you might have found. My memory, Mom to stop one afternoon on a corner, and I picked up a rock. She was hurrying another rock down the ditch a short ways, hopped back in the car, and they were a part of a beautiful green leaf. I started working here. Where are the green leaves? And they said, well, they're not any. So I was able to change and add to our fossil collection. This is a block that is part of the Turtle Cove in the John Day Formation. And with that, to the area. Behind me is the map of where we're coming from the sheetrock unit on this peg. John Day Fossil Bed has 3 separate units, the Painted Hills, and then north into the units. So together, they take in about 20 square miles, an area of Oregon that takes in over 20,000 square miles, that from about 45 million years ago, consistently million years ago. For our scientists, this is like having the cake, the ice cream else too, because you get to see how those plants and animals change as these different rock layers are exposed. Uncovering the ancient worlds of John Day Fossil Beds into our fossil. If anyone has had a chance to visit the fossil gallery, one of the parts of the story is having these amazing murals. A lot of us look at rocks, and for those of us who like to see fossils in rocks, they tell us most of the general public, they have no way to imagine what that bone rock, what the story really is. And so for visitors walking in, some of the really fun things to see, we have a fossil banana painted into the mural, a really ancient predator, and probably one of my favorite, these little guys over here. horses. They stand about 8 inches, 12 inches tall. I'm going to hold up a fossil, and about the size of a large house cat. You need to imagine that has 4 toes on the front and 3 toes on the ground underneath the bushes, shrubs in a really warm, wet, tropical forest environment. As we go along, I want to encourage questions to put the questions into the chat or let us know, and we will questions as we go. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm going to move on.
Yep, you're good.
When you're parts of the story that our scientists are seeing is about 45 million years in age and is made up of mass. This one is just a small toe of a mud flow flowing into a river, and with that, it's preserving the exquisite material. This one is a leaf that helps us under warm, wet environment where you have the drip tips drawing water away from the trees, and then just absolutely exquisite material in the fossil nuts and seeds that are. Catherine, who's my helper, just scanned down through the case and we'll show you the other side that is really unusual in animal preservation. We're going to try to capture it for you. And it's right here. Oh, I don't know if we can do it. That's just on this one. It's right in this area. There we go. Yeah, we got it. Back around, some of the other pieces to it that are here, you might notice a crocodile painted into the man. This big, primitive looking rhino type creature. At the base of a lot of the family trees, and to come visit John Day fossil beds, it's not unusual with the species name like John Dayensis or Carnoensis, because the originating points for a lot of the families. Mural one that I want to share is this dragonfly painted on equisetum, and then others that might be harder to see. But each one of these are animals and insects that are represented. We're going to move ahead in time about 5 million years. We're moving into a called the Hancock Mammal Quarry. This is the only quarry. Our scientists normally prospect across the surface of the landscape material as it erodes out of the rock layers. In this particular, perhaps that mud flow, lahar, swept down volcano, washing through the river and jumbled up a lot of animals. The actual quarry itself is loaded with a myriad of bones, different material from a group of animals, very primitive. One of my favorites is up in the mural right here. This is the very earliest of the tapirs, and it's a very good representative of animals that could be a living fossil in that they're in the fossil and in our modern landscape today. without much change. Scientists an idea that as the environment, these animals just moved, so they were in an area that was to their right. Another group of plants that I'm sure that this one is a modern plant. It's called equisetum. Horsetail are common names for this plant. And I have a fossil of, and I wish I could hand it around and show everybody. Doing it is really hard. It's absolutely exquisite to have a 3-dimension of the equisetum. They're painted into the mirror in the corner, sweeping around through here and right here. To two other groups of animals. This little grouping right here are Haplohippus and Epihippus, are horses, again, as they've moved through time and years from the first ones that I introduced you to. So still really small. A lab still have 3 toes on the front, and so they're really well adapted to living on those soft soils, in among eating leaves, twigs, fruit, nuts, things like that. We're going to move ahead. I feel like I'm going really quick, but I know we don't have much. Notice that as we are moving up in time, we're now in the bridge about 33 million years ago. Our landscape has changed. Community is more of a deciduous forest, probably reminiscent of where most of you are from, with the hardwood forest. Some really common plant to this landscape. You have Oregon grape and maple. It's not at all unusual to have pine trees. And then, of course, Ordway redwood, which I'm standing under a replica of. It's absolutely to be looking at this landscape and see that our landscape is slowly cried out through time. So one of the questions that our scientists ask is why have this cooling trend? And it's not only here at John Day Fossil Beds, it's world. And so one of the pieces to that puzzle actually started back in time, 60, maybe even 70 million years ago. If you imagine with Antarctica attached to South America, as plate tectonics play, the circumpolar current started to cool a continent. When it cooled, you started having a worldwide cooling trend. To me, it's just, you can see that play out in our fossil record. I'd like to share my favorite fossils, and this is a part in a camp of the Don redwood, the metasequoia.
Wow.
So we're going to move in time and move up into the Turtle Cove. Cove takes its name from the abundance of turtles in Blue Basin in the late 1800s. By through this area, looking for fossil material. You see that this landscape is becoming more open, a deciduous, and then painted into this, trying to capture. So you look up into the clouds, you've got this kind of a dark, almost look. A lot of our volcanic ash drifted into the John Day Bay, landing on this landscape and being kicked up like dust when animals, they're eating the ash, they're living with it, And then occasionally we'll have a big event that buries the whole thing, sealing it off. Over each of time, a new forest, animals are come back. Some of my favorite ones, if you're looking into the mural, I'm hoping we can show you. We have this shadow. It's right here. Kind of looks like a giant hawk shadow flying. When you find fossils, often you're long day, a lot of heat, you're picking up pieces, but in a lot of times they're going to be identified later when you get back into the lab. This little like much. It's just a little kind of a brown bone, and this is kind of get an idea what it looked like. So the story behind this, when John Day National Monument in 1975, and our first paleontologist joined the staff, he decided that he wanted to go around to museums and see that had been collected in the 1800s, the early 1900s. This piece had been collected and then stored in a drawer with pieces, camel, and misidentified. When he looked at it, puzzle, I mean, it doesn't really look like a solid bone. So he started in that particular museum and found a drawer that had pieces that actually the top of the humerus of a big bird. And there's that big tendon would have gone through right in here where it's to move. So misidentified fossils, even today, scientific record as further research takes place. Beard, and all we have is one piece. It was painted into the mural. Hopefully someday we'll find more of this and be able to tell the story better of this matching to a condor, probably a territorial. So that I have, when you're looking into the murals, it's really hard to see. But this is the first time that we have beavers show up in the landscape. They're not an aquatic beaver, run across the landscape and are burrowing beavers, living more like a road painted into the mural. Right here is this little beaver running. I think it's absolutely amazing that you have a fossil animal that so closely resembles an animal that's in modern landscape. I'm getting it held up here. So here's a lot of the same skull parts, teeth, and a different purpose, but having the same morphology. And I want to point out, because this is a common theme, I'm going to trade places with our camera here. Theme throughout all the different murals. Horses at this point in top 24 to 29 million years ago are size. So they're definitely gaining in. And when you look closely, you've got still 3 toes. However, now to run faster away from predators is becoming really. If you think about standing up on your tippy toes and running a race, you're running on just a few toes to go faster. You're trying to make your legs longer. This is exactly fossil horses. Along with that are adaptations. in the skull. So we've gone from a skull that's about like this big, double in size. With that, you have changes in the structure of the teeth, taller crown, in order to deal with the increased volcanic dust in that environment. Of the Turtle Cove of the John Day fossil beds, kind of in Serengeti, it's just an amazing landscape, incredible diversity of plants and animals. When you dig into beds, we have 11 different dog-like species. Those dogs, it's a small tree climbing dog that eats and nuts like a raccoon. Imagine a tree climbing dog. Another habitat, a niche that's open, is for a cat-like. It's a dog with a really short nose, and then the teeth, when you look at them, head to toe, they're kind of at an angle. The teeth like a cat, like a felid, where you have 3 molars, complement of molars, but because it's jammed tight, they're kind of set at an angle. An amazing group of dogs that are part of this land. Walking forward and have you look at this next mural, think to yourselves, and let's see if you get it. I have artwork painted in these murals. This one, you've got some of the bigger horses that are part of our crowd of critters. You have one is a big Oreodont, kind of a big browser, filling that same big rhinos would. Has anybody found a new plant? Yes, you're absolutely right. This is the first time in our fossil record. They are in other places in the world back about 30. John Day Fossil Beds National Monument. They really don't show up in the fossil 20 to 22 million years ago. With the, we start to see some really big changes in the animals that take advantage. Another piece to the story at John Day Fossil Beds often dries out. You have a more open landscape, trees for some of the burrowing animals. And these are scientists because gophers and other small rodents will live there within just a few hundred meters of where they were born. So an incredible about an area, a landscape, an ecosystem can be studying some of the smaller rodents that are part of our community of animals. Forward in time. And like you folks out on the parts of your landscape that you're really familiar with, so that you start not John Day Fossil Beds National Monument for us, that would be the flood basalts. From fissures throughout this area and flowed across the land, and with that really hard rock sealing and protecting those softer sediments that we've been looking at and preserving that landscape buried at depth. So yeah, we are actually walking through those flood basalts. This is the mascol, and the rock layers that are given the designation are about 15 million years in age. Look at this big gray lump is part of that is north of the National Monument, where the fissures basalts flowed out of. Imagine massive, massive faults filling in canyons, blocking drainages, and in ways backed up. You start having large, shallow lakes are warm from the heat being released from a previous flood of heat and the heat in the air from the flood basalts up above. So that really long cooling trend kind of came to us a little bit of a climate temperature bump, and it's called climatic optimum. And we see in our fossil record, boom, in the diversity of animals that are showing up. All time, and I'll have Catherine swing over here, is the first time we start seeing the gomphotheres turn up in our fossil record. With that, animals, we have a clue as to falling sea levels and land bridges that existed. There's a tree of events where horses have immigrated out to other. This is a case with the gomphothere, the elephant, where a group of animals crossed the North American continent. Another fun part of the story, fossil beds, is the first true cat that shows, and up here in the tree, maybe an ambushed predator. Another one that is fun to find when you're visiting is this great big dog. So a great big crunching dog, which is part of the story of an arms back, where you have a predator that keeps getting bigger to chase bigger animals or bigger horses. And so they get a little bit faster and a little bit bigger, or the cat gets a little bit faster and a little bit bigger. We see that arms race of that 45 million years of time develop and crack different times. It's just amazing to think that, and we try to crunch it down into 30 minutes for a program. Horses definitely have the adaptations for big open and teeth that now are pointed the right way. A great adaptation for the grazing and eating the grasses that are available landscape. With warm water, have massive blooms of algae. You can see it painted. It's kind of this green sludge around the trees. Those diatoms fall to the bottom and create a great goop, silica material. It preserves fossils like figs, so preserved a little fish vertebrae, fairly common to fish that are out here. But I think one of my favorites is the exquisite fossil of the water lilies that are over in our collection. And our last mural that is painted is the rattlesnake mural. We are about 7 million years, and if you were able to walk out our front door and see our landscape isn't that different than what you would see. So this brings, we've looked at climate change. We've gone from a really semi-tropical jungle about 45 million years ago, up through time in a lot of different rock layers with a lot of different fossils helping us piece together that story. This is just the general climate change. No animals that were here are extinct. Some of them have adapted and changed, and we still have them in our world today. Some of them, like this big cat here, all we have is just a glimpse of that one find in the fossil record. And so leave you with, what does that mean for all of us? A lot of times school groups or I'm talking to people at John Day Fossil Beds, changing climates are okay. But what our story is control. And what we see happening today in the world is a climate on a scale of 100 years or less. And you can think about what's happening outside right now. It's pretty easy to come inside or you have extreme weather events. But a lot of the animals in that they can't come inside. And so I'm encouraging people, be careful of the plastics that you use, things like that. And National Monument, our job is to preserve these fossils and about what this normal climate change through this period of time was. Everybody that's part of your group to come visit. Does anybody have a question?
You want to put your questions in the chat if you have any questions for Michelle? I love those dioramas. Boy, they're beautiful.
They are at so one chance to visit.
Where in Oregon is it located?
We're in Oregon. We are just central Oregon. So if you imagine a big box. One thing about the music, they represent the correct coordinates for northwest. So as we move through the fossil gallery, we started through the day, we end up in the late afternoon. And if you were to stand looking, you can actually see this volcano or see the valley or see another volcano. Another question?
You're about 4 hours southeast of Portland, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Well, I love those hands-on tour that you just did through the building. That's really neat.
Well, while people I'd like to introduce Catherine. I'm going to have her walk around so you can actually see. It really wouldn't have been possible without Catherine's help on the technology. We're a good team.
You did good.
Good job, Catherine.
Is there anything in particular I could take the camera and show people?
Back here in the creek one, you may have said it, but I didn't. The hexagonal rocks in the creek, are they columnar joining? Do you know that geology? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, right there. Yep.
Absolutely. And so when our scientists were planning the gallery roads in this area, one example of this is about 2, and one example of this is about 30 minutes to the west. It goes along a spot where you can look at the top of the columnar basalt. Most often, out here, what we're looking at, I'm standing beside, we have the vertical cracking. You never get to see the top talus or debris, and then you have the next flow on top of it.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before we break them loose? You're 3 hours behind us, so it's about 5 o'clock out there now, right? Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to point out another fossil that I think is really fun to share, that we can get it without much glare. This little dog fossil was found by Thomas Condon, and it became the new species Tomarctos, which is an almost bear, and ancestor to all of our dogs today that we have as pets, or to the modern wolves from which our dogs come from. So Thomas Paleontology and Visitor Center is named in honor of, and it's right next to the egg. Our favorite. I love it. This is my favorite right here because it's an egg.
Oh.
Eggs are perfect. Eggs.
Oh, good. Michelle, are you still finding? Are there still fossils out there to be found?
There goes out in the summer months about 2 times a week. Numerous time. In fact, our chief of paleontology is taking a look, just recently found, down to have a CT scan done, the detail inside that skull. And the reason that it's important is because it's a little head. It's probably going to be a new species, definitely new to the Pacific Northwest, new to the whole North American continent.
Wow. Cool.
That have happened. There's new material found all the time. We have really turn up consistently, but it's those unique little, but they're just pieces that bring that whole picture into show.
Okay. All right. Now I don't see any other questions popping up here. I know we've been communicating back and forth about 2 years now, trying to get this program together.
Trying to make this program.
And we appreciate you stepping up into the Zoom world. Oh.
It's not easy because I don't see anybody, so I'm talking to a camera. But
I'm not sure what happened there. Okay.
Being able to share the story is a great pleasure.
Yeah. Okay. I think we lost your picture there. But okay. I love those. Like I said, I love those walkthrough tours. You can actually get to see the dioramas there.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost your video, I believe, unless it's.
I can see faster. Well, we can hear you. Is there any way? Are you still hearing?
Okay.
Do we have...
Yeah, I got you. Okay. But anyway, okay, so maybe 1 or 2 of our people will get out there. I see somebody just commented. Love the dinosaurs so much. Melanie Markowski said so. Dinosaurs are loved wherever they are.
Actually, dinoramas, but that too.
Right. We don't have any dinosaurs, but the dioramas part of the program, they really help give a visual image to that are here. It's a story that the fossils are just begging to tell. People don't have that ability to visualize it. So it's fun to be able to show that.
Yeah, okay.
Are there any other questions?
I don't think so.
All right, well, you have my contact information, so a question later they want answered, I'd be more than happy to answer a question and program for you.
Yeah, I think I'll send that. I think I'll send that out to the folks here in an email.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for joining us, Michelle.
You
All right. I'm not sure what's going on here. I got all kind of wacky stuff going on in my computer. All right. Melanie, you know what the difference between a guitar and a fish is?
What's that?
You can't tune a fish. So, all right, folks. Hope you enjoyed that walkthrough. That was, I think, that was the first Zoom program that they've done out there. So they're in the learning stages, but they're not like the experts here in Zoom Rock Room. But, oh yeah, I do. You may have heard on the news that tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, they're launching a rocket from Cape Canaveral. And this rocket actually was designed and made on a 3D printer, which is, in my mind, just not possible. But it's like 36 meters high. They're going to try to put it into an orbit. They said if it doesn't succeed, they're going to learn what to do better to make it succeed in the future. So if you have NASA TV, or if you have the app on your phone, the Next Space Flight is the name of the app. The flight is called Good Luck, Have Fun. And it's going to be, like I said, launched tomorrow at 1 o'clock from Cape Canaveral. So that should be fun to watch. So on that, I'll send it back over to Melanie and let her get us out of here.
Sure thing. So again, we appreciate you all logging on tonight and watching that virtual tour, which is phenomenal. I know we have a lot of phenomenal speakers, but it was really nice to not only hear the facts and hear the education, but also see their facility as well, because that's a long trip out to Oregon. If anyone's making that journey, that virtual tour was very much appreciated. And I think everyone enjoyed it as well. I know I did, and I know Jerry did too. So thank you for joining us tonight, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye-bye, everybody.